I want to first thank Alba for that. I can sit down now because that's what I was going to say about me as well. I want to... Haley stole a lot of my lines because I was sitting here going, great, nobody said anything about outside Dublin yet, nobody has said anything about outside Dublin, and then Haley went up and said it all. But I would like to thank the NLGF for asking me to speak here today, and particularly asking Dundalk Outcomers to be represented here. And to say congratulations for stepping outside the pale and reaching out to the organisations that exist outside Dublin and to ask us to come along to tell you our opinions and our experiences. Okay, if I can figure out how to work technology, we're on the ball. Okay, I'm going to kind of briefly go through the first few slides because it really only talks about, I think, what Al was after saying. Dundalk Outcomers is a group founded in 1996 in a group structure, but we were meeting from shortly after decriminalisation as well, which was fantastic. And you can see that most of the organisations that have grown around the country came after the decriminalisation of LGBT people. It offers a safe space, a first port of call for a lot of people, for teachers, for LGBT people, for their families, for service providers. We work as an information, obviously, and advice service, and we have a presence in the community, which is very interesting, because a whole lot of people that have come to our service have said, oh, you're very hard to find. When I ask somebody on the street, where is Dundalk Outcomers? They say, oh God, I've never heard of Dundalk Outcomers. I always say, did you ever ask them, where is the lesbian and gay place? And they all go, oh, that's around there, because they all know what it is, but not a lot of people know what it's called. So we have that presence in the community, and that constants, I suppose. The need for our service, and for services like ours, is absolutely useless at stats. I don't know how many, 122,000 people, what it looks like or anything. But that's what the County of Louth has, and the North East has the figure underneath it. We're on the main Dublin to Belfast road. I get phone calls, I was saying here earlier on this morning, we get loads of, or I might ring somebody in Dublin and say, would you come down and speak about this or something around? And they go, yeah, I've never been to Dundalk, but I've passed it going to Belfast. Loads of people tell you about that experience. So we're on the main corridor between Dundalk, or Dublin and Belfast. And we have two, I suppose, main centres of population, which is Drogheda and Dundalk. And then lots and lots of small towns, like Ardee, Carrick, Macross, Monaghan, places like that. Our proximity to the border is, we're about 12 kilometres from Newry. And I think one of the really interesting things about that border is that when we ask people in our service, you know, how does the border impact on you, being a lesbian or gay person? They all go, oh, nothing. Now, it has never had any impact in my life, it's there. And then you have a conversation about how many people do you know 17 kilometres down the road in Newry, and how many people do you know 50 kilometres up the road in Dublin. And you'll find that nobody knows anybody else that's gay in Newry, but we all have loads of gay friends in Dublin. And it's because unconsciously we stay away from the border, because for many, many years the confrontation and the troubles. So it also means that our service is accessed by people from the other side of the border, and that brings into our service other challenges around culture, around religion, around politics, that I suppose helps to inform how we work. Again, this is on our service is open 5-6 nights a week. We have a lesbian women's space, a gay men's space, a young adult space that also works as a trans space, because there's a lot of our young people have come to our service and they're trans. We have a few now that are starting, about 3 older men, so we're going to start looking now in the next few weeks. I think Tuesday, 3 weeks, we're having our first trans adult group meeting. We have a youth space for 14 to 18-year-olds. We do one-to-one support, and we're hugely involved in and we see this as a huge resource, is the National LGBT Helpline Service. The structure of our service is Management Committee, Pride Committee, Youth Steering Group, Youth Worker part-time, myself, and a Jobs Bridge Administrator. The work we do is that we work I suppose this is outside running the services in Dundalk Outcomes that we support LGBT groups in Newry and Cavan. We go and speak in schools and youth services and deliver awareness raising training to healthcare professionals, youth workers, teachers, one-to-one support for LGBT families, and engaging with local county councils and elected representatives. I suppose this is really the stuff that I wanted to talk about, because all of the stuff that has been said today, and it's very, very important. I wanted to talk, I didn't know whether this was appropriate for this forum, but I think the lived experiences of exclusion. Exclusion is huge, and I was trying to think, and when Anna spoke about where exclusion came from, I was kind of going, that's the reason why I couldn't really figure out where did exclusion come from? It's because it came way back before I started reading books. When I started to look at the impact on individuals that we don't even identify as exclusion or what it is, but we just know that for some reason or other, LGBT people suffer, not exclusively LGBT people, but LGBT people suffer these things, and no doubt it's influenced by our exclusion from living a normal life. So we have obviously LGBT people with low self-esteem, mental health problems, unlikely to engage in services. We have found, I don't know, but when I was a kid and I was turned 18 in the middle of the 80s, when it was when unemployment was at its height, and I remember my dad saying to me, go down there and tell them you're after getting out of school and you have no work, and they'll give you a piece of paper to sign and you'll get money. And that's how I found out about the services and unemployment and so on and so forth. Our service is full of young people who have never been shown or told how to access services, like unemployment, like rent allowance, like any kind of service like that that young people need. Nobody has ever pointed to them and said, these institutions exist to support you. And that's part of the exclusion. We don't see ourselves in those services. And so, therefore, they're going, I didn't know. You know, I've sat in the Dole office with loads and loads of young people. Our youth worker has sat in Dole offices, dispensaries, healthcare services with young people who were not aware that these services existed for them. They're unlikely to be claiming what they're entitled to. They have difficulties at home, they're out of school, out of home, and out of work, and all of that in some ways ties into their whatever it is, whether they're thrown out of home because they're gay, whether they leave just because the mother and father say they can stay there, but just because it is so difficult to stay that they leave. And the same reasons why they all come out of school early, or some of them aren't working because they can't get work, and it's impacted by the rest of the stuff. Again, the impact of it on their families is they believe the hype, they buy into the exclusion of our young people and the shame of having somebody that's lesbian or gay in your family. You know, we hear it regularly from parents, what did we do wrong, you know, all the young men. When I found out my son was gay, I was terrified because I thought he was going to die of AIDS and he's going to live a very unhappy life. There's going to be kind of no future for him. And the parents' relationship, well, they're not really real because they don't really, you know, they can't really do anything, you know, so their relationships are not really real. And they're never going to marry and be an active member of this family by producing grandchildren for us or whatever. Youth homelessness, some people have mentioned here today. I was at a seminar last week and I was speaking on youth homelessness, and we're not talking about, when I asked at that seminar about homelessness, you know, there was teachers in that room that said they'd never heard of youth homelessness. They've never heard of it. There was social workers there that had never heard of it. And I was talking about young people who appear in front of you to be grand, but they're living on somebody else's sofa. They're not at home, they're not engaging in any rent allowance scheme or dole or anything, and they're staying on, or one person has rent allowance and 3 people are living in the flat, and nobody else has any money. Or they're staying with a friend from school whose mum and dad knows that she's gay, and they're letting her sleep on the sofa because her mum and dad won't let her into the house. We've dealt with, it's something I've never realised before, we've never done it before in Dundalk Outcomers, we are buying cereals and we're buying bread and cheese and butter, that it's there on the youth services nights so as that they can get something to eat. Because in some cases they haven't eaten all day, or they don't have the funds to buy anything to eat. And in I'm one of the founding members of Dundalk Outcomers, so I'm 18 years involved with it, and we have never, ever, ever had to provide food for somebody ever before. And now I find it that there's maybe 6 young people, 4 of which are girls anyway for definite, and they're all coming into our service to be warm, to have food, to watch TV, or to use the internet, because they have none of those services. This is still very prominent, and we work very closely with the Gardaí around the blackmail of gay men in particular. In small communities, or in, I suppose, isolated communities, where men don't have access maybe to travel to Dublin, or the money to go to Dublin a lot, and they end up getting involved with maybe a younger kid or a younger guy or something like this, and very quickly it escalates to the young fella knocking on his front door and saying, you know, I have a problem, I need a lend of £50 or €50 to get me out of this particular issue. And the guy saying, oh God, I couldn't believe that. I'll tell that you're sleeping with me, and then there's money paid over. And part of that is 2 terrors. One is not having anything, and the other one is the fear of being involved, being outed, being part of this excluded community, because at the moment, while you're in the closet, you're included in the community. So it's about when you come out that you all of a sudden aren't. So blackmail is still an issue for us. It used to be huge many, many years ago, thank you, and now it has died off a bit. We had a very recent event where a partner of a young guy died in our service. They'd been together for 10 years. Both gay men in the relationship were absolutely excluded from their families. And that young lad, at 35 years of age, walked behind that hearse on his own because neither family would walk with him. And that was absolutely a horrendous thing. Now, he didn't come to Dundalk Outcomers to tell us about it until 2 weeks after the death. But we're now supporting him through holding on to the home that they had together and his property and stuff like that. But that was a huge thing to have happened. I suppose also when you step outside of Dundalk and Drogheda and places like that, and you go into the smaller areas, you know that the church and the GAA are the mainstay of those communities. And if you're not part of that, you're not part of the community, because nothing happens outside those 2 services. And as I said, we're now starting to deal with a lot of issues with for trans older men with non-appropriate services, because we are not experienced enough to deal with them. I suppose these are the kind of the things that need to be done to maintain and build on what supports are out there. LGBT diversity, as Hayley spoke about, was an amazing programme. It was only 3 years old, and it finishes in the next few weeks. And the one thing that I suppose when we are talking about economic exclusion here today, 5 people have lost their jobs due to the end of that programme. 5 LGBT workers have lost their jobs due to that, in a very, very small sector, and now a huge chunk of them are gone. And all of them in areas where previous to this there was no LGBT work. We need to look at new ways to engage with isolated people, as Lily spoke about. Dundalk Outcomers are involved with the HSE and the Southern Health Trust on the border around. They've worked really, really hard to get us into all of the healthcare services for 1.5 hours to speak to front-line providers and doctors and nurses to do a bit of 1.5 hours of awareness raising training. It's only running from Loudmead, Cavan, Monaghan along that area, but it needs to be much more expanded. The helplines, we need to really, I suppose, use the helpline. The helpline is a great resource, and now that we're all linked, the 7 helplines around the country are all linked to one another, there's the potential for that to be much more successful than it currently is great, and if we start to use it. And as LGBT service providers now in this very limited time, we need to work much, much closer together and share our campaigns and share our ideas for maximum impact and benefit. And that's it. And that's it.